האם זה באמת סגולה בדוקה? הסגולה ללמוד בזה?
Erev Tov, good evening. Dobre Vietcher. We are in the Zera Shimshon on Parsha Noach. We're going to do section number 9, Os Tes. We're only going to do the first half because it's too big to do the whole section in one sitting. Very unusual and fascinating piece that has to do with a fiery furnace. It's not often that we get to talk about a fiery furnace, not just that, but we're going to talk about two different incidents involving a fiery furnace. First of all, let's start with a pasuk from our parsha. Perek Yud Aleph, pasuk Chav Ches. This is at the end of Parshas Noach. Sometimes we forget that Avram Avinu is mentioned at the end of Parshas Noach, and we think mistakenly that we are not going to encounter Avram Avinu until Parshas Lech Lecha, when Hashem, of course, gives him the command to leave his birthplace and go to Eretz Canaan. But actually, at the end of our parsha, at the end of Parshas Noach, we meet Avram Avinu and his family. And here's a pasuk: Vayomas Haran al penei terach aviv. And Haran died on the face of Terach Aviv. That means during the lifetime in front of Terach, his father, while Terach was still alive. Haran died. Haran was one of Moshe of Abraham's two brothers. Be'eretz moladito, in the land of his birthplace, Be'or Kasdim, in Or Kasdim. So we're starting with this pasuk because this is where the fiery furnace first appears. According to the Medrash Rabbah, this place, Or Kasdim, this name of the place, Or Kasdim, alludes to the fact that Nebuchadnezzar built a big fiery furnace and set it up in order to be able to throw people in who went against his wishes. And Avraham was one of those people, because Avram Avinu, of course, recognized Hashem and worshipped Hashem and gave up serving idols and rejected serving idols. And this was brought to, I'm sorry, I said Nebuchadnezzar. I meant to say Nimrod. Nebuchadnezzar is the other person who much later on throws people into a fiery furnace. Nimrod wasn't happy with the fact that Avraham Avinu had rejected Avodah Zarah, rejected idolatry, and he had him thrown into the fiery furnace. And Abraham was saved from that. So that's how it connects to our parsha. We'll see the Zera Shimshon is going to talk about that incident, and also the later incident from Sefer Daniel, in which Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah are thrown into the fiery furnace, and that was by Nebuchadnezzar, and they survived. So we're going to talk about both of those incidents in this exciting section. Psachim Perek Yud. Let's get right into the text. In the Talmudic tractate of Psachim, in the 10th chapter, the quote begins, V'yesh omrim, and some people say, Ve'emes Hashem la'olam Gavriel amaro. The words Ve'emes Hashem la'olam, which of course come from Tehillim, and you can see in the parentheses, it's from Tehillim Perek Kuf Yud Zayin Pasuk Bet. That chapter only has 2 psukim, and we know it. We recite it as part of Hallel. So Ve'emes Hashem la'olam, those words. There's a debate, a discussion, actually an argument in the Gemara. Who said those words? Who was David HaMelech kind of alluding to when he said those words, and who does it refer to? So, or who used those words and said them? So, one opinion is that Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah said those words when they were saved from a fiery furnace. That's one opinion in the Gemara. But the other opinion is Gavriel the Malach said those words. Why would Gavriel the Malach say those words? We're going to continue with this quote from the Gemara. B'shoah shehipil Nimrod es Avram Avinu l'kivshon ha'esh. At the time when Nimrod threw Avram Avinu into, or ordered that Avram Avinu should be thrown into the fiery furnace, Omar Gavriel said to Hashem, Ribono Shalola, master of the world, Ered va'atzanein es hakivshon, I will go down, actually kind of allow me to go down. Let me go down and I will cool down the furnace. Va'atzil es atzadik mikivshon ha'esh, and I will save the tzaddik Avram Avinu from the fiery furnace. That is what Gavriel wanted to do, proposed to do. Omar lo, Hashem said back to Gavriel, Ani yochid be'olami, v'hu yochid be'olamo. I am unique in my world, and he is unique, he meaning Avram Avinu is unique in his world. Noel le'yochid lahatzil es hayochid. It's more appropriate, more proper for the unique one, meaning Hashem, to save the other unique one, meaning Avram Avinu. So Hashem said to Gavriel, I'm going to handle this. I've got this one. You, thanks for your offer. You don't need to go down to save Avram Avinu. Ulefi she'ein hakodesh baruch hu mekapeach. And because Hashem does not withhold schar kol beria, it does not withhold the reward for any creature, and in this case, meaning it doesn't just apply to humans, it applies to malachim as well. Hashem does not prevent them or stop them from receiving their just rewards. On Marlo, so Hashem said to Gavriel, Tizke v'satzil shlosha mibonav, you will merit and go and save 3 of Avram's sons, meaning 3 of his descendants in the future, and that's a reference to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, that Gavriel will be able to save them in the future as a reward for his desire to save Avram Avinu when Avram Avinu needed to be rescued from the fiery furnace. Continuing next page, column on the right, and this is still a quote from the Gemara in Psachim. The Dorash Rabbi Shimon HaShiloni, the Gemara continues, Rabbi Shimon HaShiloni taught, B'sho'a shehipil Nebuchadnezzar harosha, at the time that Nebuchadnezzar, the wicked king, had thrown as Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, L'soch Kivshon ha'esh, he threw those righteous tzaddikim into the fiery furnace. Omar Yorkemi Sar Haborod. Yorkemi, the ministering angel of Hail, said, Lifnei HaKodesh Baruch Hu, in front of Hashem, Ered va'atzanein es hakivsha, I will go down, allow me to go down and cool off the furnace, va'atzil es hatzadikim halalu, and I will save these tzadikim, of course, meaning Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So Yorkemi, in case this is the first time you're hearing that there is a ministering angel for Hail and that his name is Yorkemi, then please, you're with me on this. First time I have learned that as well. So Yorkemi, the ministering angel of Hail, 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 says to Hashem, let me go down and save Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah by cooling down the fiery furnace. Omer lo Gavriel. So the Malach Gavriel said to Yorkemi, the Sar HaBorod, Ein geduloso shel HaKodesh Baruch Hu b'kach. The greatness of Hashem would not be reflected in this, meaning if you went down and cooled down and the furnace and saved these tzaddikim. Sha'atasar shel barad, because you are the officer, the ministering angel of Hail. Ve'hakol yodim shehamayim mechabim esa'esh, and everyone knows that water extinguishes fire. Ela ani sar shel eish, but I, Gavriel said, am the ministering angel of fire. Elech ve'akdiach mibachutz. I will go and burn up the enemies of Hashem who are around the standing around the fiery furnace, va'akarer mibifnim, and I will cool it down from the inside, ve'es enes besoch nes, and thereby I will be doing a miracle within a miracle, more than just one miracle. I'll be doing two miracles, one within the other. Number one, I'll come and save these tzaddikim, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, and I'll do it by cooling down the furnace, even though I'm the malach of Eish, the sar of Eish, and I'll also wipe out the jeering mobs who are standing around, hoping to witness the terribly painful deaths of these three tzaddikim. So that's what Gavriel says to Yorka Misar Haborah, the ministering angel of hail. And of course, we know that that's from the earlier in the Gemara, from the beginning lines, we know that that's what happened because Hashem assured Gavriel that he would be the one to go down and save and rescue the tzaddikim Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Now the Zera Shimshon is going to pose several questions. Next paragraph. Yesh l'daktek, we need to ask, B'seretz HaKodesh Baruch Hu, the answer that Hashem gave in the very beginning of this section of Gemara from Maseches Pesachim. In the very beginning, Hashem gave an answer to Gavriel when Gavriel wanted to go down and save Avram Avinu. Hashem said, Ani yochid be'olami, I'm unique in my world, and Avram is unique in his world. Noah yochid. And so it's more appropriate for me, Hashem said, to go save the unique Avram Avinu. Shelich orahem divarim ba'alma. It would appear, Zera Shimshon says, these are just words. They're just words that we're reading. Ubevadai shetzorech limso bahem ta'am v'svora machra'as. We definitely need to figure out what is the reasoning and compelling logic behind these words. So in order to put that in a question form, in the form of a question, the Zera Shimshon's first question is, why? What was the reasoning? What did it mean when Hashem said to Gavriel, I'm going to go save Abraham and you do not need to, because it's more appropriate for me to do so as the Yochid Be'olami, the unique one in my world, and Avram, in order to save, I'll go save Avram, the unique one in his world. So Zera Shimshon says, if we don't delve deeper into that, then it's just words. It's just the flowery words. It's rhetoric. What does it really mean, and what's the logic behind it? Why did Hashem, in fact, feel compelled to not allow Gavriel to go down and rescue Avram Avinu? So that's question one. What does that really mean? What did Hashem really mean, and what was the logic behind Hashem's statement to Gavriel? That's number one. Ve'od, another question, question two. Mahu zesha Omar Gavriel ve'es nes besoch nes. What did it mean when Gavriel said to Yorka Misar Haborad, you're not going to go down, I'm going to go down, because when I do it, it will be a miracle within a miracle. It will be greater. It will be more miraculous by having two miracles. Demi Omar lo shetzorech shtei nisim. Who told Gavriel that two miracles were necessary? Why did Gavriel feel that things had to be done in a doubly miraculous way? V'dilma ein tzorech la'asos ela nes echad. Perhaps all that was necessary was one miracle, and therefore Yorka Misar Habarad seemed to be have the right to go down and save the young tzaddikim in the time of when they were thrown into the fiery furnace. Why did what made Gavriel think and insist that only he could go down because he would be able to do a double miracle? That's question two. Next paragraph. Ve'od makshim ha'olam. The third question is the question everybody asks. Lomo lo amad sar shel borad. why did the ministering angel of Hail, our friend Yorkami, stand up af lahatzil es Avraham, also to save Avraham? Very penetrating question. The Gemara in Psachim told us that Yorkami, at the time of Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, Yorkami, the Sar HaBarad, jumped up and said to Hashem, let me go save these tzaddikim from the fiery furnace and protect them from the wrath of Nebuchadnezzar. Beautiful, inspiring, amazing. However, why did he not say that when Nimrod had Avram Avinu thrown into the pit, into the furnace? We don't see, the Gemara doesn't quote him as offering to go down and save Avram. Why not? Why did he seemingly not wish to, or for some reason hold himself back from offering to save Avram Avinu, and only threw himself in front of Hashem and said, please allow me to go down and save Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah? Why? Why only then? Why not previously, when Avram was thrown in to the fiery furnace, the Kivshon Ha'esh, by Nimrod? That is the fourth question. That is the third question, the third question. Now, before the Zera Shimshon goes further, he's going to bring a possible answer from another commentator, and he's going to tell us he doesn't really favor that answer. Umashiteretz Maharsha. The answer given by the famous Talmudic commentator Maharsha, She'efshar Shehaya Yodea, it's possible that Yorkami knew Shahatzaloso lo tihya elamin HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Maybe Yorkami knew, he had inside information that only Hashem was planning to save Avram Avinu, mitam shehaya yachid, because of the reason that Hashem gave. Hashem is unique, Avram is unique, and therefore Yorkami, knowing that, didn't even offer to save Avraham because he knew there was no chance of that happening. That's the Maharsha's answer. So the Zera Shimshon says, Hu dochak. That answer is forced. It's not an answer that appeals to the Zera Shimshon. He feels it's an answer that the Maharsha gave only because he was forced to do so and didn't have a stronger answer. Ve'od, and more so, furthermore, the reason the Zera Shimshon doesn't really accept the Maharsha's answer is the im Gavriel lo yoda. If Gavriel did not know, was not aware of the fact that only Hashem was planning to save Avraham and none of the ministering angels could do so, minole l'sar shel barad ladas, how would the Yorkami, the ministering angel of Hail, know? So the Zera Shimshon says, number one, I think the answer is a little forced. I don't love that answer of the Maharsha. Number two, what sense would it make that Yorkami knew that fact and Gavriel didn't know that fact? That doesn't, there's no reason for us to assume that. So just like Gavriel did not know that Hashem was planning to save Avram directly and would not allow any one of the malachim and the ministering angels to do so, just like Gavriel didn't know that, so too we can assume Yorkami didn't know it, in which case the question stands and continues to require an answer. Why didn't Yorkami volunteer to save Avram Avinu, just like much later he volunteered to save Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah? Next paragraph. Od Makshim. Another question is asked. Lama Amad Sar Shel Barad. Why did the ministering angel of Hail stand up, V'hatzolas Hananiah, Mishael, ve'Azariah, to save Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah? Why did he offer to do that? V'seiretz Maharsha shelo haya yodea masha HaKadosh Baruch Hu hivtiach leGavriel. The Maharsha says the reason he proposed to do it is because he wasn't aware that Hashem had promised Gavriel to do it. And that's why he offered to do it. V'gam zeh dochak. This also seems like a forced reason. Umikol shkein lomar, how much more so is this not really an acceptable reason? Shepam achas yoda upam acheres lo yoda. If you go with that reasoning, you would have to believe that one time Yorkimi had inside information, and one time he did not have inside information, meaning as follows. When it came to offering to save Avram Avinu, Yorkimi withheld himself from doing so because he had the inside information that Hashem was planning to do it, and that job was not going to be available to any of the ministering angels, any of the malachim. So he had that information and he didn't offer. On the other hand, when it came to saving Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, Yorkimi was completely not in the know, and he didn't know. He wasn't aware of the fact that Hashem had promised that mission to Gavriel, and that's why he himself pushed himself forward and offered himself and proposed to Hashem to save Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So the Zera Shimshon, to put it concisely, is not pleased, doesn't accept the Maharshah's answer about either of the two incidents, which leaves us, again, as they like to say in Yiddish, it bleibt schwer. It remains difficult to understand why Yorkimi Sar HaBarad offered himself to Hananiah enthusiastically to save Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, but did not, even though it had been promised to Gavriel, but did not offer himself at all to save Avram Avinu, which had not apparently been promised to anyone else. Okay, now, next column on the left. Ve'od kashelon, and we have even another question. Lama lo leGavriel laharich kol kach. Why did Gavriel have a need, or seem to need, to prolong his explanation, to say so much imsar shel barad, to the ministering angel of hail? Meaning, when Gavriel told Yorkimi, sorry, this job is not for you, I'm going to go down and save Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, why did he have to explain so much? Tepuk lay, it would have been sufficient for him to say, Shezos hahatzola nogas lo, this act of rescue was his, had been extended to him, to Gavriel, bishvil havtochoso shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because of the promise of Hashem. That's all Gavriel needed to say. But Gavriel didn't say that. Gavriel didn't say, it's not quoted in the Gemara as saying to Yorkimi, I'm sorry, this is my job because Hashem promised it to me a long time ago. Instead, he was explaining the whole issue of Yorkimi, you can only do one miracle, but I can do nes besoch nes, I can do two miracles, and that's what's called for here. So Yorkimi, you relax, I'm going to go save Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. That is question. That's what creates the question. Why did Gavriel seem to feel the need to say anything more than I got this? Hashem promised it to me. Ve'im nomar, and if we say Gavriel bo lehochiach, that Gavriel was coming to prove shezos hahatzola nogas lo, that this act of rescue was due for him, was appropriate for him to do, af below haftachaso shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even without the promise of Hashem. Meaning, if we suggest or think that maybe Gavriel didn't mention the promise from Hashem as the sole reason for him being the one to go down and save Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, is because he wanted to make the point to Yorkimi that even without that promise, it should be his job and his zuchus, his merit, to go down and do it instead of Yorkimi, im kein kosher, then that's just going to create another question. Ma ho'ila lo zos haftacha. Then what was the purpose of Hashem to give this promise to Gavriel to go down in the future and be able to save these tzaddikim, if even without the promise, the job would have come to Gavriel for some other reason? Perhaps because of the nes besoch nes reason. Next paragraph. So we have a very nice set of questions that the Zera Shimshon has assembled here. And it's going to take a lot of work, of course, for the Zera Shimshon to be able to answer all of these questions, because, as I mentioned in the beginning, we're not going to complete the piece tonight. We'll be able to understand, we'll be able to see the Zera Shimshon, the beginning of his approach, but we'll have to save the second half of the piece for another time, God willing. Next paragraph. Umishum hachi yoser nir elomar. Because of this, it would seem better to say, she'in hachinami, that yes, let's concede shesar shel borad haya yodea. We are going to say that the Yorkami, the ministering angel of Hail, knew Mashiv Tiach HaKadosh Baruch Hu LeGavriel, what Hashem had promised to Gavriel, that Gavriel would be able to save Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Or more correctly, more accurately, not that Hashem had promised that Gavriel would be able to save Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, but Yorkami was aware that at the time when Avram was thrown into the pit and Gavriel wanted to save Avraham, Hashem said, no, you'll be able to save some of his future descendants. But to Avram Avinu, Hashem says, I'm going to save myself. We're going to say, Zera Shimshon says, let's say Yorkami knew that. Aval b'pam azos, but at this time, hayitzorich laso shtei devarim hafuchim. Yorkami understood that two opposite things needed to happen. Vehem nes besoch nes. And that is this miracle within a miracle. Dahainu litzanein hakivshon mi bifnim. The fiery furnace need to be cooled down from inside of it so that the three tzaddikim could survive. V'lisrof ha'umos ha'omdim mi bachutz, and the mob that we mentioned before that was standing and cheering and jeering outside needed to be burnt up. Shehoyu misachakim aleihem. They were laughing at what was happening to and enjoying what was happening to Hananiah, or at least what they thought was going to happen to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Shegam zehu lichvod tzadikim. This was also an act of honor for these righteous men. Shahakodesh Baruch Hu tovea elbonam, that Hashem would not only rescue them, but he would also bring vengeance against their enemies and the ones who were aggrieving and mocking them and laughing at them. So it's clear that the Yorkami understood that two totally different kinds of things would need to happen: an act of cooling off the furnace and an act of burning up the jeering mobs. Next paragraph. Umishum hachi svira le'lasar shel borad. Because of this, the ministering angel of Hail, Yorkami, thought, Shema shehivtiach HaKadosh Baruch Hu LeGavriel, the fact that Hashem had made a promise a long time ago to Gavriel, lo haya ella lasos nes echad bilvad, would only be to do one miracle. Dehainu nes hahatzala, which is the nes of rescuing someone who needs to be saved in a miraculous manner. V'lo lasos shnei nisim, and not to do two miracles. Shahare lo omar, because Hashem had only said, Shahare lo omar ella, Hashem had only said, tizke v'satzil. Gavriel, because you wanted so much to save Avraham, you will merit to save someone else of his descendants in the future. V'lo amar lo lasos nami nekomame ha'oivim. Hashem didn't say, Gavriel, you're going to be able to do the double miracle of saving someone in the future and also taking vengeance out on the enemies. So Yorkami reasoned the promise that Hashem made, which was for Gavriel to be able to rescue someone in the future, some descendant of Avram's in the future in a miraculous way, in a miraculous fashion, that could be carried out, that could be fulfilled with some other righteous person or some other righteous people. It didn't have to be Hananiah and Mishael and Azariah. She'ein tzorech bohem. There will be other righteous people who she'ein tzorech bohem, who don't need elul hatzalosam bilvad, who only need to be saved. They don't need to have anybody else destroyed. Kimo shehaya ba'Avraham, just like what would have happened with Avraham. Gabriel wanted to go down and save Avraham. There was no need at that point to come down and save Avraham and burn up a bunch of other people. So therefore, in order to reward Gabriel and give him another opportunity similar to that which he was denied, specifically to save Avram Avinu, a mission of Hatzalah, a mission of rescue, the Yorkimi figured that could happen with other righteous people. After all, tzaddikim are always getting into trouble in this wicked world, and they always need to be saved. It's very common. So Yorkimi assumed Hashem could fulfill his promise and let Gabriel save other people. But he doesn't have to do, this very challenging mission of saving Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah by cooling down the fiery furnace, and also at the same time burning up the jeering crowd around the fiery furnace. Yorkimi felt that was a mission for him and not a mission for Gabriel, who only was promised, according to Yorkimi's way of thinking, a single miracle rescue, a single miraculous rescue, not a double one. Therefore, the ministering angel of hail wanted Leiraid to go down, who? Himself, Elasos Shnei Nisim, and to do the double miracle that we talked about. Nes besoch nes, which would be a miracle within a miracle. Lefi shehoya martiach mibachutz, he would burn up the people from outside of the fiery furnace, afal pi shehu sar shel barad, even though he was the ministering angel of hail. So the very fact that Yorkimi could come down and as the ministering angel of hail and burn up the people standing around the fiery furnace, and also bring cooling inside and save the three tzaddikim, that would be the most appropriate way to handle the situation in Yorkimi's opinion. Next paragraph. Aval Gavriel Heishiv lo, but Gavriel responded to him, meaning to Yorkimi, Ein geduloso shel hakodesh baruch hu bekach. It is not. It will not demonstrate Hashem's true greatness, Yorkimi, if you go down and do what you're planning to do. Klomar, this means to say, next page, top column on the right, Iker hagedula shel hakodesh baruch hu, the main greatness of Hashem, he lahatzil hatzadikim. It's to save tzaddikim, velo lehomis es ha'oivim, and not to destroy the enemies. That is what Gabriel responded to Yorkimi. The main way to demonstrate Hashem's greatness is through hatzalas hatzadikim, saving righteous people, not bringing vengeance and killing the enemies. K'moshe matzinu ba'Avraham, as we find regarding Avraham, sherotza lahatzilohu ba'atzmo. Hashem wanted to save Avraham himself, kedei laharbos begedulas hatzaloso, in order to increase the greatness of the rescue. Umitam zeh lo omar li ela tizke v'satzil. And that's why, Gabriel argued, that's why Hashem said to me, you will merit to rescue and save descendants of Avram Avinu. V'lo omar li lahamis es ha'oivim. And he didn't say to me, you're going to rescue descendants of Avram Avinu in the future, and you're also going to destroy enemies. V'ima ni'ered lahatzil, and if I go down to save Hananya, Mishael, and Azariah, yesh nes besoch nes b'hatzolas hatzadikim. There will not just be a double miracle, but there'll be a double miracle specifically in the act of saving these righteous men. Shezehu ha'ikr, which is the main thing that Hashem wants. Sha'atzane mi bifnim, because I will cool down the fire from within, which needs to happen to save these tzaddikim, afal pi sha'ani sar shel eish, even though I am the ministering angel of fire. So we're going to stop here, but let's make sure we understand, according to Zera Shimshon, what Gabriel really meant in his response to Yorkami. What he meant wasn't just, I'm going to do a double miracle that you're incapable of doing, because that turned out not to be true. Yorkami made the case that he could do a nes b'soch nes. He could do a double miracle. And as a matter of fact, Yorkami was trying to make the argument, was trying to argue that therefore the job should be given to him, because Gabriel was only promised to do a single miracle of rescue. Whereas Yorkami, this was a job, saving Hananya, Mishael, and Azariah was a job that required a double miracle, and therefore it should be given to him. So when Gabriel responded to Yorkami, it couldn't be enough to just say to Yorkami, you can't do double miracles. This requires a double miracle. Yorkami was saying he needed to do a double miracle, and that's why he wanted to do it. So what was the real answer? The real answer had to do with the nature of each of the malachim. Gabriel said, I'm the malach of fire. You're the malach of barat, of hail. For you to go down and save these tzaddikim by putting out the fire, by cooling the fire, is a miraculous rescue. But it's not the same. It's not comparable to me, the Sar of Eish, the ministering angel of fire, to go down and put out the fire as the ministering angel of fire, to cool down a fire with the power of fire as the ministering angel of fire. That's a nes b'soch nes. That's a miracle within a miracle, specifically in the area of the Hatzalah, which is the main thing that Hashem is concerned about, specifically in the act of rescuing Hananya, Mishael, and Azariah. Hashem wants a nes b'soch nes. That will really demonstrate Geduloso shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the greatness of Hashem, because it involves rescue as opposed to involving and focusing on, in addition to rescue, the wiping out, the killing of the enemies who are jeering and making fun of Hananya, Mishael, and Azariah. Yes, that's important. And yes, that should happen. But that element is very much secondary to the ikr, to the main primary element of saving the tzaddikim. And Gabriel said, only I can save the tzaddikim in a way that is even more miraculous, doubly miraculous, because I'm the Sar Shel Eish, whereas you, Yorkami, are the Sar Shel Borad. So you can only save them through a miracle, but not save them through a double miracle as I can. So as I mentioned in the beginning, I know it must be difficult for people to stop here, because we want to go on and see the answers to all of the other questions that the Zera Shimshon posed in the beginning. But we have the advantage at this point to have seen the approach that the Zera Shimshon is taking to understand the Gemara and Psachim that he opened with, and to understand these two different stories about the tzaddikim being thrown into the kivshon ha'esh, first Avram Avinu, and being saved in a miraculous way, and later Hananya, Mishael, and Azariah from Sefer Daniel being thrown again into the fiery furnace and being rescued in a miraculous way. And we see that these rescues were not simple. These were complicated rescues that elicited all kinds of supernal in the heavenly realms, all kinds of arguments about who should be the ones to go down and have the privilege of rescuing these righteous men. Yasher Koch for joining in the learning today. We look forward, Emir Tashem, to learning together in the Zera Shimshon on next week's Parsha.